Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for tuning in for this very, very hot take, ad hoc. I completely planned on being on sabbatical this week because I had some dental stuff. You'll see a black eye, make fun of it. My wife beat me up. Just kidding. Had dental work. But that's completely why I planned on being sabbatical and not really on a lot of jaw jacking or any other podcasts this week. But I've been seeing a lot of communication about this new um, ConnectWise incident that's been going on, and everybody is all up in arms about it. And I'm like, you guys and gals need to calm down, take a time out, take a drink of water, something. And let's just talk about this. So earlier today, CrowdStrike went or ConnectWise that makes the application ScreenConnect put out a release earlier today, right? So we'll bring it up here. Their latest advisory said that they learned of suspicious activity in their environment that we believe was tied to sophisticated nation state actor. Okay, whatever. Which affected a very small number of ScreenConnect customers. All right, so let's dive into that part, right? A lot of organizations have it on copy and paste to say it's sophisticated nations threat actor because one, we don't want to potentially emit of a potential weakness in our software. So everything is sophisticated, everything is high level, everything is whatever, right? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But just know this is very boilerplate stuff, right? Unless there's like an IP address or an exact network to say it's tied to this botnet, it's tied to this infrastructure or whatever, APT group, or they may not want to say it, but this could be somebody completely doing a massive brute force on 5 of ScreenConnect tenants. We don't know, right? They did say it affected a small number of ScreenConnect customers. Again, what is small? 5, 10, 100, 500? I know there's a lot of ScreenConnect instances that's out there right now. So, our definition of small and theirs may be massively skewed. So, they said they launched an investigation. Good. With one of the leading forensic experts, Mandiant. If you haven't heard of them, they've been around the block a long time. Acquired by Google, 2023, I believe, maybe 2022. Not Barricade Cyber, but I digress. So they said they contacted all their affected customers and coordinating with law enforcement, aka they filed an IC3 report. And they may be filing a K8 if ConnectWise is publicly traded. I don't know at the time of this recording if they are, but if they are publicly traded, then they'll have to file a K8 report with the SEC and kind of go through there. As part of our work with Mandiant, we implemented enhanced monitoring and hardening measures across our environment. We have not observed any further suspicious activity into customer instances. So this is the part that gets funky, right? Any further suspicious activity in any customer instances, that is a breach. And a breach is 2 parts. All right. From a public standpoint, the public definition is any unauthorized access to a secure environment. What does that mean, Eric? Okay. A secured environment is anything that you control and protect to restrict other people from controlling and accessing a web server. Barricade Cyber itself, the main page and all the other pages are public domain, but to get into the administrative portal to access and add and change content is controlled access, right? Username, password, MFA, 2FAs, whatever the case is. There's a public and a private, but you have controlled access to administrative functions to an environment. That is the public perspective. When you're going through an investigation, however, the determination of a breach is 99.99% of the time a legal process determination. So they're not going to say, yes, we've been breached, because that starts the clock. I've said it on the show many times and other shows. We have this book that we get every year from Constangi. Really, really good book. They do a lot of good work in putting out things to let us know what exactly is considered a breach, how many potential impacted entities, names, phone numbers, addresses, what combinations they need to be, things of that nature for each state, and each state is different. So, going through that process and determining that breach and what defines a breach is very much a legal process, right? So that's the two sides of it. On the surface, yes, they've just openly admitted right here on the screen some clients have gotten breached without saying breached. Okay. The security of our partners is paramount to us, and we closely monitor the situation, the blah, 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 blah. Right? So everybody's talking about, jumping ship off of, and this was posted, ConnectWise posted this earlier this morning, and then CRN came out and said that, that everything's fine now. Is it? Maybe. Right? The one thing I want people to really take away from this, I guess a couple. Anytime you're using a cloud application, you need to make sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure you can secure it from your side of the fence as much as possible. All right. Let's take Microsoft 365 or Gmail or Google Workspace, for instance. Either one of those will be perfectly applicable to this scenario. Google or Microsoft have access to the core servers. They give you certain limited access through the administrative portals and through the applications. So they're doing we hope their best to secure the back end. They're asking you to secure the front end and access to your account with MFA, Microsoft Authenticator, Cisco Duo, whatever the case is, and being able to secure that, right? Do you trust the Microsoft Google ecosystem to be working on the back end infrastructure in those scenarios? 9 times out of 10, absolutely, right? For them to have a major incident that impacts global is a very big issue for them to have. So taking due diligence to make sure you're doing the best you can on your infrastructure, what you can control is paramount. This is to include reviewing the logs of the servers. Can you review them? ScreenConnect has had a problem with this in the years past, and I'll put that as a big caveat, in the years past, where it's extremely hard for cloud instances to get proper logging out of the ScreenConnect. The last case I had was about 2 or 3 years ago. You couldn't see from our access into the system brute force attempts. You couldn't see it. So you, as a system administrator, you don't know something is afoot. We would hope that ConnectWise would be monitoring that stuff in the back end, but we don't know. I mean, they do own Perch, which is a managed SOC solution. Do they integrate that? I don't know. That's a really good thing to ask them, right? So, you would want to make sure that you're able to do your due logging and, really start vetting out some of these vendors that you're using as a number 3, right? How much trust do you have that they are going to do the right thing when something happens? On the surface, it looks like ConnectWise may have done the right thing, right? They got an early detection, they investigated it, they implemented remediation efforts and stopped a further possible scenario on their infrastructure and their client's infrastructure, right? Time will tell if that's the way it's going to be. But there's nothing here so far that is saying everybody needs to run for the hills and switch tools. Calm down. Mostly everybody who works with us knows that Barricade Cyber is a huge partner with CrowdStrike. And people always like to want to, every once in a while you'll get beat up. Oh, CrowdStrike had that breach or that incident last year. Yeah, they did. They had a big pie in their face. Abso-freaking-lutely. And now Delta is allowed to sue CrowdStrike. So, whatever. But when you take a look at the response of CrowdStrike and how they handled a situation, how they communicated, and we have, no, I shouldn't say, we have through our own tenancies and through federated access to other clients' tenancies, we have a fair amount of devices that we manage. And even we are a very small player in the CrowdStrike ecosystem. And I say that to say, they were even calling me on my cell phone 2 or 3 times a week. Hey, Eric, just checking in. How are you and your clients doing? Do we need to get on a call with your clients? Is there anything that we can do to help you and your team? Any feedback on the tools that we were doing, right? So I say that to say that they handled the situation, in my personal opinion and view, the best way you can, right? We got a lot of clients that we coach through communication efforts, and they've done a really, really good job, and they've come out much, much stronger on the other side of it, between us and potential breach coaches that were involved in it, they are doing much better now than they ever were before. And I'm not saying I'm not saying use this as a business strategy for growth of getting compromised, but you learn a lot, unfortunately, when you go through that, and communication is definitely one of them. So, let's take a seat. Let's sit back. Let's take a breather. Thankfully, on the surface, it looks like nothing too major was compromised. And they've gotten the situation resolved. So, as much as I trash on MSP tools all the time, this one will be a tip of the hat to ConnectWise. And from what we see so far, an almost immediate response to a potential incident. Now, could we be in Crow in 4 or 5 days and find out there was something completely different? Absolutely. But we can only make a judgment based off of the information that we have at hand today at 6:01 p.m. on May 28th, right? This is all the information we have. And everything shows, let's sit back, let's relax. Let's let the story play out. There's no reason to go light your house on fire and throw the main breaker on the way out. And kind of go from there. I do see a comment from Marine Corps buddy of mine, Brandon Pearson, Ura Devdog. ScreenConnect was the most abused RMM software in 2024 by threat actors. Additionally, that pair of ScreenConnect vulnerabilities were some of the heaviest exploited hit by threat actors of all last year. Absolutely. And that's kind of why I talked about how I crap on MSP tools a lot. And I really, to go back and circle to the logging issue that I've seen on some cases of years old, you couldn't see brute force attempts in the audit logs on a hosted ScreenConnect server. You couldn't see it. It didn't exist. Does it now? Maybe. I don't know if it does or not. We honestly haven't had a ScreenConnect case in about a year. Or at least not one. At least not where my client was using ScreenConnect and we had access to the portal to do the investigation. You know, did the MSP have ScreenConnect? Yes. Do I think that their ScreenConnect was part of the threat chain? Yes. But again, that was outside of our scope, so we didn't have access to those logs. So hopefully this is something that ScreenConnect is, because I've complained to them for many, many years about this, and it's a plugin at the time. So you had to install another plugin just to get the limited logs that you could out of there. On-premise ScreenConnect is a lot better. You do got to decode the date timestamps and all the other stamps that are in the flat database on there, but it does have a little bit more enriched logging. Is it the best? No. Anybody who's ever worked with a web server IIS has got more granular logs in that thing than ScreenConnect does. So in my personal opinion anyway. But anyway, that's all I got for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Again, everything on the surface looks kind of bad to some degree, but I think that what we were presented with, they acted okay. They acted in a timely fashion. I would even wager that this may have been under a 24-hour situation. Maybe a WAF, a web access firewall, detected something at the early sets and their main SOC was able to mitigate stuff really, really quickly. I don't know. Hopefully we get more details. But until then, y'all take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another instead of leave all the trash talking to me. I'm more than willing to do it when the time comes. But y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay curious, my friends.
There once was a kid whose passwords laid across all sites. They were the same, a criminal, then found their fame by taking that data to go.
Soon may a criminal come to steal your pictures and data and run. One day when the crime is done, they'll steal